Tonight, we are celebrating our outstanding community leaders, recharging for the fight ahead with elections coming up, fundraising to elect Democrats, and hearing from fantastic speakers to learn how we can get involved today. Here with us today is Senator Barbara Boxer, who has spent over 40 years in the elected life cycle, including the US Senate, House, and local government, and representing California from 1993 to 2017. She has spent 24 years in the US Senate, and Boxer has supported a myriad of progressive causes, including reproductive rights, environmentalism, voting rights, and among others. Thank you so much for being here with us today. So according to the ACLU, since January 2021, 560 abortion restrictions have been introduced, and more than 100 were enacted. This is more than any time since Roe versus Wade was decided. With regards to reproductive rights, who is directly being impacted by these restrictions, and what is a key takeaway you want individuals here to remember?
When it comes to a woman's right to choose, it's a lot more than abortion. It's really about respecting women or not respecting them, making government make these decisions that are private and personal. And, as I've often said, if somebody came to me and asked for my advice on unintended pregnancy, what I would say is you've got a lot of options, and whichever one you choose, whether to terminate the pregnancy in accordance with Roe v. Wade, which means before viability, you have that right. And you also certainly have the right not to go that direction, to have the child, put it up for adoption, keep the child. But that's not my business. It's the business of the woman I'm talking to. So this is a huge issue. Who is being impacted by it? I say every single woman in America, but of course the burden usually falls on those with less resources because they're the ones that have to figure it out if they're in one of these states that are just treating women like criminals. But it does affect everyone because it is, to me, a lack of respect for women. So it's a huge battle. And the last thing I'd say here is that when I started out, a woman's right to choose really had nothing to do with politics. George Herbert Walker Bush, who was a president for one term, George W. is his son, he was on the board of Planned Parenthood when I was young, when I was your age. And a woman's right to choose really was not political. You had some Democrats were for it, some Republicans. Now you have the Republican Party has a litmus test, and with the very far right of the country, with the part of the country that doesn't think women should be equal. And it's a stunning situation. But whatever issue you're going to ask me about, I'm going to probably end up with the same note. The Republican Party is gone. The Republican Party of Lincoln, the Republican Party that had, a presidential, a former Republican president on the board of Planned Parenthood, that is no more. And that's where we find ourselves now. And it goes together with a stream of issues. And it's very disheartening to me. I'm a strong Democrat. I've always been, because we're the party of hope, opportunity, and fairness. But not to have any governing partner on any of these issues is a stunning reversal and very dangerous, I think.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And it's why what you do is so important, what you do is so very important, because a lot of people, they don't pay attention to these things. And you've got to prove the point. What has happened to this two-party system? You have one party that stands, for respect for all of us, for diversity, for voting, and you have another one that's on the opposite side, and it's got to be brought home to people.
With 2021 being the worst year for voter suppression since the Brennan Center for Justice began tracking its metrics in 2011, we found that 34 laws passed to restrict voting rights in 19 US states. What is your perspective on this information, and what ways can people get civically involved?
Mm-hmm. Well, in broad daylight, we're seeing an attack on our democracy. It started a while back And you know, it's so interesting because in the days that that I got started after civil rights, everyone was for voting rights. Everyone voted for voting rights after, you know, after the civil rights movement. Once we broke the back of the segregationists, and everybody said, "That's it. We're coming together as Americans." And now again, we see the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, you know, walking away from all of this. So what we have on our hands, as you point out, is state after state after state, mostly in the South, but not exclusively in the South. You know, you've got other states as well in the West and the Midwest passing these draconian laws that are clearly meant to, first of all, discourage / stop voting by people of color, by young people, disabled people, and basically the Democratic constituency, okay? That's what they want to do. And how do you deal with it? Well, we saw after that, after January 6th, when they failed to win their bid to overturn the election, they went into the state. So I think it's important to follow the dots from January 6th and the insurrection, and that failing because some people stood their ground and said, "We're counting the votes." Now that they couldn't do that, and they lost in all the states and in all the courts rather, overturn the election, they lost that. And now that the demographics are changing, the Republican Party is bound and determined to stop voters from voting. And if they can't, and believe me, these bills are horrifying, if they can't, because if we overcome that, then they have some processes in place in these bills to actually overturn certain counties' votes, certain counties that have, you know, diverse populations and Democratic constituencies. So we are in a mess. And what gives me hope, I have hope. And the hope I have is young people like you who get it. You get it, you know. When I was growing up, most young people just took a pass on politics. It's too confusing. I don't want to get involved. We have our own lives to live. But now the young people get it. They see if they're going to live on this planet, we have to do something about climate change. They see if we're going to have compassionate people in office, we need the right to vote, you know, and we want to save our democracy. That's what it's all about. So we have tremendous we have a tremendous fight ahead of us. We're in the middle of it right now. We must elect people from, you know, City Hall to County Board to House to Senate to President who understand that this democracy, you know, is not a promise that's going to be kept unless we work for it. And one of our founders said when asked what kind of country we were going to have, it was, I believe it was Benjamin Franklin who said, a republic if we can keep it. And if we can keep it part, that's up to us. We have to keep it. And that means calling people out, being upfront about things, and also being really smart. You know, we can't let our anger get the best of us. We have to have, you know, we have to be angry about what happens, but we have to have a plan and be excited and hopeful. Nancy Pelosi says all the time, don't agonize, organize. And I know it's what your club is about. And I'm so excited. I'll do whatever I can to help you in this season.
So to close, this is election year. What would your final or your best advice be for Democrats running for office at the local levels?
Every Democrat who's running for office has to be very clear about what they want to do. And it starts off with democracy. They want to listen. They want to fight for democracy. They have to show they're not afraid to fight for it and to stand up for what they believe. But most of all, they have to get people excited about helping them. I could never have gotten elected 11 straight times if I didn't have so many people behind me. Not just those who wrote checks. Yes, a few did, but I usually got outspent. But it was the grassroots effort on the ground, knocking on the doors, getting people to understand how important it is. So any candidate that wants to win is going to have to work very hard. And I want to assure them, as someone who live my life in elected office, it's really worth it. It's worth it because once you get into that position, you can make life better for people. And that's what it's all about to me.
Thank you so much, Senator Boxer, for your time and for the opportunity to speak with you. Everyone have a wonderful night and enjoy your time tonight. Thank you so much.